Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer, shall we? Today, we're decoding literally the most complex machinery in the known universe, your own mind. It's wild. We go through our entire lives operating this unbelievably powerful biological supercomputer, but we never actually bother to look at the user manual. Well, today, we're going to change that.
So think about this. Why do we spend hours doom scrolling, even when we desperately want to stop? We usually beat ourselves up over it, right? We think we just lack discipline. I mean, I definitely do. But what's actually happening is just your baseline biology reacting to modern stimuli. It is absolutely not a moral failing. It's just a fundamental habit loop getting hijacked by perfectly engineered triggers.
And to fix that, we really need to understand how the whole system works under the hood. So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the brain's building blocks, then move into the motivation and addiction loop, and how we build memories. After that, we'll look at the mindsets of high achievers, anxiety and modern tigers, and finally, how we're actually rewiring our brains for willpower.
All right, part one, the brain's building blocks.
You might be a little surprised to learn that our brains are built from the exact same evolutionary foundations as, say, a goat or a mouse. It's like a giant box of Legos. The baseline circuitry for basic animal survival is the exact same circuitry driving humanity to land on the moon. An animal uses its motivation circuits to go find grass, right? But we humans, we just take those exact same Lego blocks and use them to build spaceships. Now, to understand how those blocks actually communicate, we have to look at the brain's physical material. I'm sure you've heard the term gray matter tossed around a lot. Basically, gray matter creates your thoughts. These are the actual physical cells generating the electrical signals in your head. White matter, on the other hand, well, that acts as the physical cables. It's the bundles of fibers transmitting those signals from the brain down through the rest of the body. And to really grasp the sheer scale of these connections, get this. A single neuron carrying a signal through that white matter can be up to a full meter long. No way, right? It can literally stretch from the center of your brain all the way down your spinal cord just to control your physical movements. It is this incredibly vast, lightning-fast internal network. Okay, moving on to part two, the motivation and addiction loop. So, how exactly does this ancient biological software handle our crazy modern world? Well, deep inside your brain is a structure called the ventral tegmental area, or VTA for short. Our survival completely relies on this dopamine reward center. Without it, you wouldn't even remember to drink water when you're thirsty. But here's the catch. Modern triggers, everything from processed sugar to those endless pings on your phone, they artificially hijack this exact same pathway. They dump massive amounts of dopamine into your system, which suddenly makes normal, everyday tasks feel, well, incredibly boring. And this hijacking, it leads directly to that brain fog we're all constantly complaining about. When you mindlessly doom scroll, you aren't actually shrinking your gray matter. Instead, you're basically just preventing your brain from fully powering up its clear categorical thinking. It's literally like an old vintage television flickering. It's just unable to tune into a clear channel because your attention is just way too fractured. Which brings us to part three, how we build memories. To clear up that mental fog, we really need to understand how we log our life experiences in the first place. See, when you form a memory, your brain creates what's called an engram. Think of it as a physical map of cells that wire and fire together to encode a specific moment. Actually, this brilliantly explains déjà vu. When you walk into a brand new room, but maybe it has familiar lighting, your brain takes a lazy shortcut. It partially activates an old engram, which totally tricks you into feeling like you've been exactly there before. Now, these memories are initially formed in a little seahorse-shaped structure called the hippocampus. And you can think of it almost like a bank teller machine. It takes the deposit of a new memory, but it doesn't just keep it sitting there at the front desk forever. Eventually, it distributes that data out across your cortex for long-term safekeeping. Which, by the way, is exactly why your older childhood memories are so much more resilient than, say, trying to remember what you had for breakfast yesterday. But here's the thing. Not all memories are treated the same at this neurological bank. While explicit memories, recalling specific events or random facts, require that hippocampus bank teller to process them, procedural memories eventually bypass it altogether. Procedural memories are automatic physical actions, like riding a bike or playing an instrument. Eventually, they move into deeply ingrained muscle memory powered by completely different parts of the brain, which makes them virtually automatic. Let's shift gears to part four, mindsets of high achievers. So if you and I have the exact same fundamental memory systems and the exact same Lego blocks, what on earth is happening inside the minds of elite performers? Well, a billionaire's brain isn't physically heavier, and it definitely isn't fundamentally different in shape. Instead, life acts as an interior decorator. Their unique life experiences and intensely rigorous training routines fundamentally change the detail inside. By repeatedly doing really hard things, they literally physically rewire their neural pathways to support extraordinary output.
Let's look at how this actually plays out in the real world. It turns out different high achievers exploit completely different circuits. Take Michael Jordan. He heavily visualizes the physical process, driving procedural memory deep into his striatum and motor cortex. Then you have Michael Phelps, who mentally practiced catastrophic failures, using his prefrontal cortex to completely override panic. And then there's Napoleon. He literally weaponized his own survival fears, using his amygdala to imagine every single way he could die in battle just so he could prevent it. That's 3 totally different brain circuits, leading to 3 different paths to massive success.
All right, part 5, anxiety and modern tigers. Now, constantly driving your brain for success, or just dealing with everyday social pressure, brings us to the ultimate glitch of our modern era, chronic anxiety. We have to distinguish fear from anxiety here. Fear is your acute survival instinct reacting to an obvious physical threat, like an actual tiger in the room. Anxiety, though, that's your body reacting identically to a perceived threat, like a passive-aggressive email from your boss. The huge problem here is that your biology simply doesn't know the difference. An anxiety attack floods your system as if a literal tiger is hunting you down. It is a very real, very intense physical event. It is absolutely not just something in your head. And here is the exact biological sequence of how that happens. First, your hypothalamus detects the threat and hits the alarm. Then, the pituitary gland activates and relays the message. Finally, your adrenal glands just dump massive amounts of cortisol and adrenaline right into your bloodstream. Now, this evolutionary stress sequence is totally meant to save your life. It temporarily shuts down your digestive and immune systems so all your energy can go towards sprinting away from danger. But when this sequence is triggered daily by, say, social media drama or a toxic workplace, it actively breaks down your body. Which leads us nicely to our final section, part 6, rewiring brains for willpower. Knowing how easily our brains are stressed out or hijacked, how do we intentionally build mental resilience and take control back? Well, it all starts with biological balance. We spend almost all of our waking hours relying on our fight or flight sympathetic nervous system, constantly chasing goals, putting out fires. So to balance out our high cortisol modern lives, we absolutely must deliberately dedicate time to activate our calming parasympathetic system, that rest and digest state. You literally have to schedule time to slow down and actively tell your brain that the tiger is gone. And the most incredible takeaway from all of this is the concept of neuroplasticity. Your brain is highly plastic, meaning it can physically change its own architecture and connections based on your habits. You have the sheer power to override those addictive, stressed-out circuits. You literally change the physical architecture of your brain by simply forcing yourself to postpone instant gratification. Every single time you say no to a distraction, you are physically, structurally reinforcing your own willpower pathways. So the really crucial point here is that you need to train this just like a muscle at the gym. You can practice what researchers call neurobics. These are basically workouts for your willpower. By adopting slightly uncomfortable new habits, like learning a difficult new language, or even just brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand, or walking backward for 10 minutes a day, you are literally weightlifting your willpower. You are forcing your brain out of its lazy, well-worn shortcuts and carving out brand new, disciplined pathways. Because the science is abundantly clear on this. Your brain adapts to whatever you feed it. Doing difficult things, pushing past the discomfort, and actively overriding your biological desire for the easy shortcut, that is the ultimate way to master the machinery inside your head. It's exactly how you step out of the brain fog, beat those modern tigers, and actually build the life you want. So I'll leave you with this. What hard task will you do today to force your brain's interior decorator to upgrade your mind?